here to talk about Still River and the old hometown radio station, hometown radio days. Still River had just one AM radio station in the 50s and early 60s. And they had two main announcers, Paul and Abe, and they were the old hometown radio guys. And Abe had a scratchy voice, and Paul had this big announcer voice. And he would do the announcing at the Still River stock car racetrack, which was in the Still River Fair. Still River had this big fairgrounds, and it would be open like 2 weeks a year. So they were a really homey radio station. I mean, they did the local news. I mean, really local, even to the point of what's going on out on Main Street now. And somebody would look out the window and tell you. And they did birthday announcements and songs and obituaries on the radio, believe it or not. And I distinctly remember being 8 years old, and just before the news, at 12 o'clock was the local news, and at 8 o'clock in the morning was the local news. I think they shut down in the afternoon. And I distinctly remember, they would announce, and today's birthday is to me. I remember being, this song goes out to me, my name, they would say, and happy birthday from friends and family, and here's your song request. And I remember, playing One-Eyed, One-Horn, Purple People Eater, which was very popular with kids my age because it was a really good dancing song too, and you could sing along with it. That and Papa Oo Mau Mau came out, which was another really good sing along, which had like a round to it. And anyway, that was old hometown radio, the way it was a long time ago in Still River. And what I'm here to do is guitar talk today. Guitars have always been in my life since I was about 10 years old. And interesting notes was I was born the year the Fender Telecaster came out into the market. And that was an interesting guitar, still extremely popular, used mostly in country, rock and roll, rockabilly, some jazz. Very flat, solid body guitar. It was carved out with one cutaway on the bottom, guitar shape, and a neck. And the neck you could get in the dark colored rosewood or an all maple neck, which was my favorite. And that came out. And that same year also, the Gibson Guitar Company made the first model of the Les Paul, made by Les Paul, of Les Paul and Mary Ford, who were big in the 50s. They had a number of songs on the radio which featured guitar picking, but the singing was really good also, but very dated. If you look up Les Paul, you will see some very dated guitar playing, but you would see him do things on the guitar that he designed that were very unusual and picked up later on. So I've always owned at one time or another a Telecaster or Les Paul and or the Stratocaster, which was built by George and Leo Fender and came out, I think, in 1952, which was a upgrade model to the Telecaster. And it was really it's the template of all electric guitars ever made since. And though Gibson has its style, and Fender had that distinct American twangy sound. And the Stratocaster and the Telecaster, very popular. you could see Buddy Holly playing a Stratocaster, and George Strait and country players playing the old Telecaster, which was really good for bar fights because it's made of solid oak or maple body. And, you know, if a bar fight started, you could grab the neck and swing that thing around. You could knock a few heads really easy. And they were kind of indestructible. And Les Paul was very heavy, too, and solid body. These were solid body electric guitars. But Les Paul had that deeper, mellower, very distinct sound, where Fender had that very twangy, surf kind of rockabilly sound. They both are definitely have that American sound distinctly. And so here's to Leo Les and Jimi Hendrix, who many consider the king of the electric guitar playing in Stratocaster. That's what he played. But the first one I saw was a friend of mine who I grew up next door started guitar lessons when he was 10 or 11, and his father bought him a brand new Fender Stratocaster and an amplifier. And I don't think I had a run-in with electric guitars before that in real life, though I knew what they were. And we're sitting on the front porch, and he brings it out in a square case and opens it up. And it was like the best thing I've ever seen. It was a Sunburst Stratocaster. And he plugged it into the amplifier and started playing it. And it was like, yeah, this was the thing. This was the thing. And there was a little dial on it called reverb. And I said, what's that? He says, oh, that's reverb. You got to hear this. And he turns it up, and, you know, it was like a shock wave went through my head when I heard it. And it was that reverby sound you would hear like on surf guitar music, and it's definitely the surf American sound. It had that, like you're playing in 3 or 4 castles with the amp turned up all the way. And you know, he would take lessons and he would teach me a little guitar. And people back then, it was like 1963 or 64, maybe even earlier. People were listening to like the Beach Boys, the surf sound, R&B, early Motown, and Ray Charles. Man, I saw Ray Charles on Ed Sullivan's show, and he blew me away, even more so than Elvis Presley, which I don't know why. I just never cared for Elvis that much. And so I've always had either Telecaster, Stratocaster, Fender guitars, or both a Les Paul model guitar from Gibson. And years later, down in New York City, in the Cafe Wha, W-H-A, which is still there in Greenwich Village, we went down there in like 1967, and I was sitting downstairs in the Cafe Wha and Les Paul, and there was a band there from Houston with Jimi Hendrix playing before he was the famous Jimi Hendrix, which was really unusual thing to see. And Les Paul was said to be in the room. I don't know if I can remember seeing him or not, because it was a pretty Purple Haze experience, as they said, using Jimi Hendrix song. So anyway, that's my connections to Guitar Talk and old hometown radio days in Still River.